Hello and welcome to Warhammer Wednesday. This Wednesday I'll be looking at the Space Marine Thunderfire Cannon. I'll be giving you a bit of a showcase of this completed model, and then I'll talk about the tactics, how you can use it in battle. I was asked to do this quite a while ago by one of my subscribers, so I do apologise that it's taken just so long. Put it as a priority to get it painted and things, and then to do one of these videos. I was waiting for the new codex really, that I put off buying for quite some time, but as soon as I had that and I finished the model, I was ready to make the video. This is the metal version. There's a metal model, both the Tech Marine and the cannon itself. Metal. It doesn't move at all. The turret doesn't rotate. The wheels, you name it, it's just as it is. It's just static, and it's metal. It weighs a ton. At the moment, I think you can get, there's the resin one, so it's like fine cast. I think it's about £36, £35, which is quite expensive really for a gun and one miniature. You find it cheaper in places, you probably get it for about £27. But I'll just show you my Thunderfire Cannon and my Tech Marine. So I always say it, but my painting isn't the best in the world. Sprayed it black, then painted all the metal, Balkan metal obviously, waited for that to dry while painting other things. Gave it a good wash of Nuln oil, waited for that to dry, gave it a light feathering of Necron compound, and then that was pretty much it done. Similar kind of steps to the brass colours, the Balthazar gold. Tried to do some highlighting on it, tried to do some shadowing actually, all in the grooves of the black there. A bit of dry brushing on the barrel itself. It's come out alright. Like I said before, I'm not the best painter in the world, but it's to tabletop quality in my opinion. And then the little Tech Marine, he's lovely looking. I've given him plenty of highlights and things. Highlight on the red, the green. Tried to make the green glow a little bit. I love my kind of unique missiles. Have you ever seen any of my models? My unique missiles with the red and the white dots. It's on my Reaver Titan. It'll be on my Warlord as well, but yeah, I think I've done an okay job really with the metal, and made like the bars a little bit brighter with some mithril, or rune fang, whatever you call it nowadays. But now I know how to do flamers. I've now got hashnut copper. I've been on a discovery of new colours and new brushes and things, so there you go. It's alright, I suppose. So that's kind of like my little showcase of him, and now I will go through the rules and the tactics, things like that. I'll be using the brand new Space Marine Codex, the one that came out in 2015. Thunderfire Cannon, it is a heavy support choice for Space Marine Army. The war gear for the Thunderfire Cannon is just the Thunderfire Cannon. We'll talk about that in a little while. And the war gear for the Tech Marine Gunner, it's got a bolt pistol, frag and crack grenades, and a servo harness. The Tech Marine Gunner, his special rules: they shall know no fear, blessing of the Omnissiah, bolster defences, and chapter tactics. You can have 2 additional Thunderfire Cannons in one heavy support slot, which is great. So you can run them at 3, which is fine. And if there's 3 of them, all the Tech Marine Gunners in the unit have +1 ballistic skill, which is a bit odd because Tech Marine Gunner, he's got ballistic skill 5 anyway, so that's a 2+, isn't it? But you get a +1 ballistic skill anyway. And then if it contains no additional Thunderfire Cannons, then one of them, you can put them in a drop pod as a dedicated transport if you really wish to do that. The stats for the cannon is it's only got toughness 7, 2 wounds, and a save of 3+. And the gunner has got weapon skill 4, ballistic skill 5, strength 4, toughness 4, 2 wounds, initiative 4, attacks 2, leadership 9, and a save of 2+. With artillery, unit types, you always put the wound allocation on the actual artillery piece itself. You'll be trying to wound on a toughness 7 with a save of 3+ there, and then once those 2 wounds are gone, you've then got the Tech Marine gunner himself. I'll talk about the Thunderfire Cannon, and then I'll talk about the Tech Marine. So the Thunderfire Cannon has 3 modes of fire. It's got a surface detonation. I mean, it's range 60 inches anyway, so if you're on a 6x4 table, it's always going to be in range, 60-inch range, for all the 3 different profiles. All of them in a unit, so you've got 3 of them, they all have to use the same profile, which is a little bit limiting, but there we go. So the first fire type is called Surface Detonation, which is range 60 inches, strength 6, AP 5, it's heavy 4, barrage, blast. So barrage weapons don't need line of sight, hence why I've got the building there. You could aim that way and have the Tech Marine behind him maybe, and it doesn't need line of sight. You can just fire over the building and try and hit the target. So 60 inches. So it's 4 of those little blast templates. So even on Marine equivalent, that's 4 blast templates that's hitting that unit on a strength of a 6. So you're wounding on 2s. The ballistic skill is 5. You're going to be able to deduct 5 from the scatter and things. So that's quite decent, really. Then you've got a second fire type, which is the Airburst. Same range, but its strength is a little bit lower. Strength 5. Its AP is lower, and what I mean by lower is it's 6 instead of 5. It's heavy 4, barrage, blast, same as before, but it ignores cover. If there's a unit from an army that has pretty poor armour, such as Tyranids or some Orcs, then that's going to be great because it's going to ignore the cover. Yes, it's only AP 6, but you know, there's some units out there that don't even get an armour save, or they've only got a 6 plus armour save. Then the third firing type is called the Subterranean Blast, which is 60-inch range again, strength 4, it's got no AP, it's heavy 4 barrage, blast again, but it's got strike down. It really annoys me in these codexes when they have a special rule like strike down and then they don't explain it anywhere, and they don't even say in the ranged weapon profile that it's included in the rule book. So I'll go and get my little rule book and have a look for you. I'll be back in a moment. Right, here we are. So strike down, any non-vehicle model that suffers 1 or more unsaved wounds or passes 1 or more saving throws against an attack with strike down special rule moves as if it was in difficult terrain until the end of its next turn. So in a way it's really quite vague, because it says any non-vehicle model that suffers 1 or more unsaved wounds or passes 1 or more saving throws. So let's just say it hits a group of Space Marines. I mean, you'd think that if they suffer an unsaved wound, they'd be dead. That's the way I read it. However, that can also be read as, say it's a captain with 3 wounds, then obviously he can, you know, he'd lose a wound but he'd still be able to move. But the way I read it is they all count as being in difficult terrain until the end of the next turn. So in a way I don't think it's really changed from the previous edition with this Subterranean Blast. It's pretty cool actually, because it's a heavy 4 barrage blast. Say you've got a few units, big blobs, you could essentially, you know, slow a few models down, but it's annoying because if it hits, if the small blast hits, say like 3 models in a unit, then it's only going to slow them down because it specifically says the models that suffer saved or unsaved wounds. So you're going to have a few of the models having to roll, you know, they'll be slowed rather than the whole unit, which sort of makes sense, but I think it would have been cooler if it slowed the whole unit down. You know, it would simulate that some of the models have kind of stopped or slowed to find out what was going on behind them or whatever. That's the way I would have read it, but no, it's models only. So some of those models within that unit are going to have to roll for the difficult terrain. The Thunderfire Cannon itself and its rules. Let's focus on the Tech Marine now. So the Tech Marine, so he's got "and they shall know no fear." He's then got Blessing of the Omnissiah, which is the same rule as the normal Tech Marine. In each of the shooting phases, instead of firing weapons, Tech Marine can choose to repair a single friendly vehicle that he's in base contact with. That's pretty cool, but it's a little bit useless in this regard unless a vehicle pulls up next to him. It would have been cool if he could repair the artillery if it took a wound. Even though it is a vehicle, it kind of doesn't count as vehicle, it counts as artillery, and one would assume that he could repair it if it did get damaged for whatever reason. He won't be able to do that, which kind of sucks a bit. Then he's got bolster defences, again like the normal Tech Marine, where after deployment but before scout redeployments and infiltrate deployments, nominate one piece of terrain in your deployment zone, and then the cover save is increased by 1 for the duration of the game to a maximum of 3+. So you're in very good cover, and just because he's in there with the Thunderfire Cannon and you don't want to move him anywhere, bang, you've got a 3+ cover save. That's pretty useful. And then he's got chapter tactics. So then on top of all that, you could then have Iron Hands chapter tactics. He would have feel no pain 6+, and also machine empathy, where characters and vehicles have it will not die, and he'd also add 1 to the blessing of the Omnissiah roll, which would be pretty cool, really, because then he can obviously repair vehicles and things a little bit easier. So there you go. That's his kind of special rules. He comes in at 100 points, and then obviously you get 100 points for another Thunderfire Cannon. Like I said before, you could have 3 of them in one heavy support choice, but then you're limited by your fire type because you have to use the same fire type. I mean, if it was me, I don't think I'd necessarily be using this on Space Marines or Marine equivalent, but everything else I probably would. And that goes the same for Mechanicum. I'd probably use it against Mechanicum just because it's got crazy range and it's strength 6. Against Tyranids, it would be really good. Against Orcs, Imperial Guard even, be pretty decent. There's a few things here that make it so good. 1 is its range, 2 is its flexibility in terms of firing modes, and 3 it's barrage, so you don't have to have line of sight. You can just pop these 4 blast markers wherever you like, within reason. One thing I must also say is that the Tech Marine has this servo harness. It gives him 2 servo arms, which I think counts as like a power fist. Gives him a plasma cutter and a flamer, and then in the shooting phase he can fire both harness mounted weapons or 1 harness mounted weapon and another weapon. So yes, he could fire his bolt pistol and one of his harness mounted weapons, but the plasma cutter is not too shabby. Range is 12 inches, but it is assault 1, strength 7, AP 2, gets hot, but it's twin linked. I don't know whether you need the twin link with ballistic skill 5, but it's nice that if you do get that 1, you can obviously re-roll it. So it's nice that he's got something pretty nasty for close quarters, and even he could probably handle himself okay in combat, because he's got his 2 wounds and he's got his 2 attacks with his power fists, and he's got his normal 2+ save. So even if the Thunderfire Cannon gets targeted somehow, and if it has got targeted, it really is your own fault, because one of its strengths is that it can fire these barrage templates. But even if that does happen, so you get flanked or drop pod or something like that just happens to come in and take it out, or a flyer even, you've then got this Tech Marine wandering about who is pretty strong in his own right as a little character, and you get all this for 100 points. So I think it's a pretty decent kind of setup. I mean, I'd say you'd have to have 2 successful shooting phases for him to make his points back, but who knows, you might be able to take out 100 points of hordes, or even slow a unit down, which might be the difference of getting that objective. Anyway, thanks ever so much for joining me today for this showcase and tactics video. I like to combine them both rather than just show you the detail of the models. If you do like this setup and things, and you want to see more of these kinds of videos, please do put it in the comments below. Thanks ever so much for joining me today. Thank you for watching. The Emperor Protects.